Welcome to the Blind Apex Podcast, where amateur club racers tune in to get faster.
Hello, listeners. I'm your host, Con John Turk. This episode, we're going to cover safety equipment. You might have heard a little bit about this in the budget episode, but I wanted to clear the air a little bit. Today, I've got a guest with me. He's a closet Honda Challenge guy. Mostly, he runs around and looks at Porsches, though, probably. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mark Francis. I work at OG Racing. We're the official safety gear supplier of NASA Mid-Atlantic. Been at OG for finishing up my 13th year. Like you guys, I was a grassroots racer before I got into this business. Started out doing HPDEs in the late 90s. A couple of years later, I was asked to instruct, went through, got my competition license with Porsche Club of America, started club racing and instructing in 2000. Got into this field that we all are part of in 2005. And so I've got a lot of time in the business. You know, I understand where you guys are coming from, as I was an end user, just like you, before I became one of the guys on the other end of the phone when you call to ask questions, get technical advice, make purchases. You know, so I can relate to this, you know, the building a race car, just going to the track, you know, want to make sure you get the right gear, spend your money wisely, because we all know this isn't this can be an expensive hobby. So want to always, you know, at OG, we always pride ourselves in giving our customers the right recommendations for what they want to do and what their goals are.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I've been a customer. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I'd probably have to look in my email and see when the first time I did an order. But it's been at least 12 years that I've ordered from OG.
Well, OG was founded in 1990 by Bill Love, and Bill was believe it or not, you know, people were going out to the tracks. You know, I guess in the 70s and 80s, you know, I remember watching racing on TV, and I didn't know that a regular, just an average, everyday working guy or girl could get in their car, go out to Summit Point, drive around a racetrack. I always thought racing was what I watched on television. But Bill founded the company in 1990. You know, same thing. He was an end user. He was at the track one weekend, and I think he said he needed brake pads, and there was nobody selling the stuff. There was nobody there. There weren't pro shops. There weren't vending trailers. It was a lot back in those days. A lot of people would just drive cars to the track, you know, empty out their trunk, put their stuff in a little pile underneath the tarp, and go drive. You know, the industry's really evolved, you know, during the time we've been in business. So he started out doing track days, got into racing a little bit, then put a driver in a race car. You know, as the business grew, he didn't have time to race. You know, he was, growing us to what we are today. You know, we're finishing our 32nd year in this industry. You know, so we do have we have enthusiasts on staff. You know, we have other racers in the building. We have guys that have run shops. Our coworker TJ had his own shop. He builds race cars. He's worked for race teams. He drives as well. We've got Chris in our office, Chris McCrone. Chris came to work at OG, got into HPDE. You know, he's a solo driver now in his Subaru BRZ. Got a Livy Willis, who does our social media. She's got a Spec E30. You know, she got her comp license last year. She's done some racing. She'll be racing again next year. And, so we're the same, we have the same interests, and we all drive just like you guys do.
Yeah. I remember, the E30 and all the posts coming through, and I was like, why won't they build a Honda Challenge car over there? We're way more fun than the E30 guys, but I know.
I know.
Yeah, I mean,
I would
too
like,
much fun
I'd like
sometimes.
to jump in one and race with. Yeah, I want to jump in and race with you guys one time, at least.
We'll
Good
see.
group of guys.
The guys in the Northeast, Dylan's building a volunteer car, so he's looking to help out the volunteers and get them seat time. So you might be able to swipe some seat time in the Northeast if you venture up that way.
Oh, yeah, I need to get back up there.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to start traveling a little bit. We have the Mid-Atlantic region has a crossover with them in New Jersey. I don't know if you're coming for that. And then we have the crossover with Great Lakes.
2023.
Oh man, now you're putting me on the spot. I don't have that up on my schedule yet. Let's see if my wife put it on our joint calendar. She's probably pretty good about that. I want to say
I've been to the crossover one with Great Lakes up at Pitt. That's a fun track.
Yeah, Pitt is July. Yeah, it's not on my calendar yet. Probably because I'm not going to go. But I need to dial everything in so I can make nationals. So I may not do a crossover. I may see if there's another group running pit race that weekend or that month, and then get more pit race time. So you've covered the history of OG, buying brake pads out of the back of a pickup truck, and the experience of your staff. What kind of brands and gear do you carry?
We carry, that's one of the things with our experience is we pride ourselves on carrying the best brands. We have a large inventory. We do have a full service showroom. Think of it as going to the Gap, but for racing gear. You can try suits on. You can sit in seats. You can try gloves. Pick up brake pads. Pick up your fluids. Anything else you may need before you're going to head out to your track day. We are one of the largest, if not the largest, distributor of Sparco. It was one of the first brands that the company picked up back in the early days. We also carry OMP. We carry Bell helmets. We carry Alpine Stars. They're, driver gear. Let's see what other helmets we carry. Stilo. We carry Arai, G-Force. We do have Simpson, and our inventory is full. When you order from our website, unless it's like an odd special order item, it is shipping from our building, directly to you.
So the website inventory is live.
Yes, our inventory is live on our website.
Awesome.
When you create an account on the website, you can look back at past purchases. If you can't remember what compound of brake pad you carry, we also carry brake pads. We carry pads
part number,
friction pads.
I never remember my part number.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is a lot of times, you get a customer call. Yeah, I need pads for my 1992 Miata. Oh, and our staff, being that we're experienced in this, if you don't know the part number, we do. But if you've set up an account online on our website, you can look at your purchase history and say, "Oh, that's what I got last time." So I don't need to call Mark or call Chris or call TJ or Jay or David.
Right.
Our sales staff. And again, what the inventory is live. If you click on an item and it'll tell you if it's out of stock. But we do have an extensive inventory, and it is rare if we're missing something. And it could just be cross if we had a big run on something before we could get resupplied. But we carry an extensive, inventory in the millions of dollars that's in the building, on the shelves, ready to go. We pull it off the shelf, put it in a box, and goes out the door. We pride ourselves on quick turnaround. 98% of our orders will go out same day. If you order before 2:00, it's going to get out the door and on the way to you.
And you deliver to the racetrack sometimes, because
yes,
I was talking with Steve Brown.
I have been known to, either myself or one of my coworkers, we have been known to bring product to the track. If you got a last minute need, you're already on your way to VIR or to Summit Point, and if one of us is coming out that way, we'll throw it in the car, bring it with us. I've delivered seats to the track.
I think it was brake pads he needed for comp school. So it was pretty important. I'm not sure how you leave that one off the list, but some people
funny,
do.
Putting my end user hat back on, that's some things, you're getting excited to go. You're checking over the car. You get the pre-event jitters. Everybody still gets them. You get excited. You're going to the track. You're going to spend 2 or 3 days having fun, driving your car really fast and not having to worry about being pulled over. And yes, customers tend to forget things sometimes. That's normal. And that's what we're here for. We'll do what we can to get you something if you need it last minute.
Yeah. And it's also important that for people to know that it says OG Racing, but it really means everybody at the track. I peruse your website all the time because I need stuff all the time, or I dream about stuff all the time, like carbon fiber helmets and things. You guys carry radio comms for instructors. You have stuff for as people evolve through the HPDE system. I spent 12 years in the NASA Mid-Atlantic Tech Shed. I can tell you that as you pick up speed, you need to start worrying more and more about your safety. Okay.
Yes.
And so you guys have gear. I think you guys have everything but roll bars for cars. And I don't know if you have the ability to order them, but that's like the missing piece.
We are a dealer. Yeah, we are a dealer for Auto Power, for the bolt-in stuff. So if we don't stock a lot of those, obviously, for space reasons. They take up a lot of space. They do their stuff build to order, so we can get them. And usually it'll just take, depends on their time frame, their production schedule. But yeah, we do carry those. We will have those shipped directly to you.
Yeah. So really,
for the customers who are out taking a street car and turning it into an HPDE dual purpose car.
Yeah. So you guys really can cover everything. You even have data systems, different data systems for the different needs of a driver. I personally don't need an AIM system. I went with the Garmin, but that's because I need to work more on the driver and have less input from the car, but you guys carry it all.
Yeah, we carry, we carry the products from AIM, starting with their basic solo lap timers right up through full data acquisition. Basically you can, their product is made to start, from just getting basic data up to having the entire car, everything the car's doing, everything that you're doing being logged in a data logger where you can go back and look at the information. They have cameras that you can run standalone or tie into their data systems. So the AIM is a really good product in that it covers anything from the basic track day guy to the full racer who wants everything, who wants wheel speed, brake pressure, steering angle, throttle position, they have shock sensors you can put in to measure shock travel. It's infinite what you can do with it. But for the HPDE guys, that's too much. It's information they don't need yet at that stage. And then with their other, you would be just fine with an AIM Solo and a camera, one of their Smarty Cams. We are also carrying the Garmin Catalyst. The Catalyst is a very easy to use, combines data and video, and will give you voice instruction from the unit. You put the camera up on your windshield. The camera will map out the track, and it'll tell you if you could go a little bit faster here. I'm paraphrasing, of course, because I'm not sitting there recording the data myself and telling you, but it will talk to you in real time. And then you can go back and do post-session analysis, and it'll track down in the segments. But it's very user friendly. Anybody who's ever had a Garmin GPS in their car, they can work this. You don't need to take a class to use it, and you can get a lot of good information out of a system. And of course, being that it's one of their products, it just works really well. Excellent.
Yeah.
We do carry, so we do have everything from you're going to your first track day. Well, I want to get a decent pair of shoes. Don't go out there to a big puffy pair of running shoes, so you can't feel the pedals. We do have casual driving shoes right up through full competition certified fire resistant race boots.
Yeah, and you carry, some of the long anchor gear for racers who need to do their own alignment or want to do their own alignment or check it trackside.
Yes.
To they're pretty accurate. I wouldn't say it's the most accurate, but for the dollar, it's probably the most accurate tire pressure gauges, durometers.
Yes.
You guys have everything there. So as soon as you start
camber caster gauges, toe plates, for doing quickie, checks, if you take the car a little off track excursion, you want to make sure you didn't knock the alignment out. You can, toe plates come with a tape measure. You can, as long as you got your baseline in your notes, you can make sure that the car is, the alignment's hasn't been, knocked out of where you want it to be. We do carry all those items as well in the building.
Yeah, I'm sure the racers right now are like, you're boring me. But we were talking this morning, I believe, about some big new changes in 2023, specifically with seats. Do you want to break that down? Because I think that's going to be really important for the racers.
Yes. Well, as you guys know, for the guys who do competition, when you look at whether it's the NASA regs, SCCA, Porsche Club of America, BMW CCA, they all have requirements for seats. The seat has to have an FIA date, be within 5 years, with the exception of the aluminum seats, which are SFI, what the Kirky Ultra Shield seats like that. And in the rule book, it says seat over 5 years old, you need a seat back brace. You can still use the seat. The seat's not junk at that point. But the FIA has come out, the old seats a lot of us have, and I don't mean old in a bad way, but the certification, the seats that most of us have in our cars at the club level are the old FIA 8855-1999 certification. Those are the seats that, from the date of the year of production, they're good for 5 years before you have to put a seat brace in if you want to continue to use it after that. The FIA, with the speeds the cars go and technology and everything, they have come out with 2 other standards for seats. They have the big one they have is the FIA 8862-2009. This is their highest seat safety standard. These are this is a seat requirement at the pro level. If you're running, any, FIA sanctioned racing in Europe, in the case of the US, I think IMSA requires these seats now. The 8862 standard was a different way they tested and where the seat could take higher G loading. The standard is a quasi-static standard, meaning the seat is fixed and the loads are applied by hydraulic rams to the head area, shoulder area, and pelvis area of the seats simultaneously. And then they measure G's both lateral and rearward testing, where the seat has to meet a certain requirement. For example, it's difficult to compare the standard to say that an 8862 standard is way more rigorous and simulates an impact of approximately 70 Gs. And to put that in context, for those of you who are into watching Formula One, I happen to be one of those guys. The crash that Roman Grosjean had at the Grand Prix in Bahrain in 2020, the impact was at 67 Gs. And those the tests they do, they'll do the test with forces between 32. I don't know that term, it's a scientific one, but basically 3.3 metric tons in the tests they do, and it's about basically that standard makes that seat about. It can take about a 300% increase in loading compared to the 8855 standard of the pelvic, shoulder, and head area of the racing shell. You'll find seats like that in, say, a BMW M4 GT4 factory-built race car, the Porsche Cup car, 991, now the 992 Cup cars, the Porsche Cayman GT4 Club Sport, those have seats that meet that standard. The seat is all part of an integrated system, the side mount, the sliding mechanism, everything. That seat is tested with all those components already as part of it. It is a complete system. Now, but for our purposes, at the club level, guys, the new standard they have come out with in the 8855 standard is the FIA 8855-2021 standard. And what they, with the introduction of this standard, they brought it in to eventually replace the 8855-1999. And it has increased the safety and is much closer to that highest FIA 8862-2009 standard, but at a reduced cost, which will result in bringing, they're going to basically make this, this standard is going to make this better technology, safer seat more accessible to, us club racers. That those 8862 standard seats can be 10,000, around up to and even past $10,000. And for a guy racing on a budget like me, and like I imagine a lot of you in the audience, that's, we can't do that.
Right.
So they wanted to come out with a better standard to give us some of the safety advancements of that 8862 certification in an 8855 seat that is attainable for basically the rest of us.
Yeah, $10,000 is basically right around my annual budget to run, just to run the car. So what are the prices looking like on those club level higher safety seats?
Well, I'll give you a little background on that.
Okay.
The new 8855-2021. They have, those seats are now going to be have a 10-year lifespan, because it is a stiffer, more rigid seat. You're not going to get weight savings by putting one in, being that the seats are much more, stronger. They are heavier. But the, just to put it also, the 8855-2021 has not made the 1999 standard seats obsolete. The standard has not been withdrawn, and the FIA, along with other governing bodies, are aware that these design requirements on some of the new seats may not fit in some of these older cars, for example, vintage cars. So they have not killed that standard, but these seats will be, there will be 8855-2021 seats coming out. They're going to be under $2,000.
I think that's pretty affordable considering it's added safety. It's twice the longevity. I was looking up my OMP, the HTE-R. I have it in the XL version, is already $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
If I have to deal with that every 5 years, maybe I can go with a safer seat and just leave it in for 10 years, So I think
without having the requirement of putting a seat back brace on the car.
Right. I think it's going to be tempting for some folks for sure. Mm-hmm. Earlier you talked about 10 issues.
To get them. We do have them on order.
Oh, you have them on order? Mm-hmm. Do you have an expected arrival?
Yeah, we'll have
date?
some. And we don't have data. We don't have. It'll be after the first of the year.
They're on a boat.
They come in. It's just a matter of them getting here. Probably at this point, I'm guessing that they are, yes, and they'll come into the U.S. Just the U.S. distribute. Sparco USA, OMP America, Saybelt. It's another European company that'll be making these seats. That they will come into their U.S. distribution point as well, and then out to the dealers. So I think safe to say we could expect them coming in, late winter, early spring. By the time we have them on the shelf, just by the time they get there and make it, and then get shipped to us.
Okay, but that works. Most of us don't start. East Coast racers don't start until March. Mm-hmm. So some folks don't have an off season. It's weird talking to guys from Florida and California. Their off season's in the middle of the year, so it's a little awkward.
Mm-hmm.
But earlier you mentioned shoes, and shoes I found to be extremely important. Now, I've been racing for 2.5, going into my third year or so, full year. And I definitely bought the cheapest shoe. Whatever cheap G-Force shoe was there, and I bought it. And I can tell you as a racer, it was probably a bad idea. Now, I don't know what kind of recommendations you have, but I know getting in and out of my car in any type of weather, or if it's cold, or as the shoe has worn, it's got worse. They have zero grip now.
Yeah, they don't like wet.
Yeah, they really don't. I'm to the point where I put a textured carbon fiber floor plate just to get grip in my floorboard on my car, you know?
Yeah.
When I maybe just need a better shoe. Well,
they're all going to be a little slippery. You're racing your car now. There's no more carpet in it. There's no more pad on the floor. You got bare metal. And you get into the car on a rainy day, seat's wet, you put your feet down on the floor. I see what you mean. They slip. The others, you're never going to totally get rid of that getting into a race car. Really, when you're looking at why shouldn't I just buy a $50 shoe as opposed to, well, why should I buy this $300 shoe? What's the difference? The basic entry level shoes usually are only SFI rated. Which meets all our technical requirements, at our, in our club level racing. They may be a little clunkier. They're going to have, sometimes have a little thicker sole. I've had even guys at the pro level like a thick sole. I had a pro racer tell me one time, he was on his way to test at the Roar before the 24. He goes, I like a thicker sole. I like to stand on the brake pedal. And some of the shoes with the thinner soles, he's like, I don't like it. It hurts my feet. Okay. And I sold him a shoe that meet his needs. Shoes are pretty subjective. It's really what you like. Personally, I like a thinner soled shoe. I like to feel if I could drive in socks, I probably would. I just like to feel the pedals. I feel like I get better feedback. It's sort of a to each his own.
Right.
When it comes to shoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are they all going to do their job in the event that there's fire in the cockpit? Yes.
Yeah, I think they're not designed well to take on and off easily. And so that doesn't help me at all. And then also, these definitely have a thicker sole, and I'm probably with you. I probably need a thinner sole. The pedal feedback isn't there for me.
Yeah, I understand that. When you get into some of the nicer shoes, some of the manufacturers have a drawstring is not the right term. But I have like a little, where you turn a knob and it pulls the laces tighter for you. So when you want to get out of them, you undo the Velcro strap, turn the knob the opposite way, they loosen up and they slide right off. It's a pretty nice feature. It's coming in with some of the new technology in shoes. They're extremely lightweight. You don't want to walk around in the paddock all day. In between sessions, come in, take your driving shoes off. You'll make them last a lot longer. I learned that myself. I used to walk around in my shoes. Even if I was just wearing driving shoes in an HPDE, I wouldn't change my shoes all day. And I wore the soles out faster. So I disciplined. When you're racing, especially during the summer, you come in after your, whether it's a practice session, qualifying, or your race for that day. First thing you want to do is get out of your suit, get out of your shoes. So then, you're going to take your shoes off to take your suit off. Then you'll put your walk around shoes back on.
Yeah, I get out of my setup as fast as possible.
Yeah, so do I.
Even with a cool suit.
There are times I walk around the paddock and I see guys jumping out and then they're going and working on their car. I'm like, take your suit off. Don't get it dirty. Don't get grease on it. Don't get oil on it. Don't get, you dribbled gasoline on it. If you're going to fuel your car, get out of your suit, then fuel your car.
Yeah,
it's one of my little peeves on when I'm in the paddock. I'm like, no, why are you jacking your car up and getting ready to go take your suit off? Take a couple minutes, get out of your gear.
Oh, sometimes they don't have a couple minutes. I've been there. I definitely didn't have a couple minutes. I barely made it to grid before the 3-minute mark. So, yeah, sometimes you're rushed. Sometimes you don't prepare well, or you're thrashing so hard. You know, my wife is like, "Get dressed. I'll torque your wheels and stuff, and off you go." Mm-hmm. So, I'm gonna have to come visit you guys because I need the gear I bought got me through comp school. It's got me through this 3 years now, but the other thing is there's no ventilation. Now I realize that they're not supposed to be ventilated, but this stuff is super thick. And in the summertime, my footwell gets super hot. I don't know if there's anything I can do shoe wise about that, but it gets pretty warm.
Yeah, you might want to put some of the reflective matting along the tunnel, everything to try to keep some of the heat out. Yeah, I get that in the front end, the cars where the engine's in front and the transmission's, right there next to you. Yeah, it gets a little hot in there. I imagine your car, you get in a Corvette, Mustang, BMWs, it gets a little warm. It's funny, in a rear engine car, you don't have to worry about it. Everything's behind you. So you don't get as much of the radiant cockpit heat. But you brought up an interesting point when you said, "Oh yeah, I've got to wear a suit. It's got to be hot to do its job." Well, not exactly. With the suits in the driving gear wear and in the suit arena, there have been a lot of advances in the suit technology. I remember the first suit I bought. I still have my first driving suit. It's hanging in a closet upstairs in my house, and I pulled it out one day because I was cleaning out the closet. And it's amazing how heavy that suit was. I could wear it out on a cold, like today. We've had that. It's in the 30s, been rainy. If it wasn't rainy out, I could wear the thing outside, go out and do yard work and be warm. Suits are designed to keep flames and heat away from you. But with the advances that the manufacturers have made over the years in the suit technology, the suits have gotten lighter. They have gotten where they breathe, but they still will give you that time to get out of the car in the event of a fire before the heat and flames get to you. And it's really nice now that, with these stretchy Nomex fabrics, Sparco has a fabric called Hocotex. And Hocotex is a different, I'm not going to bore you with all the technical details on it, but Hocotex, the way that the fabric is made, you have a suit that is a single layer, but it provides you with 3 layers of protection. It meets the same burn time as the 3-layer traditional Nomex multi-layer suit. And even in the multi-layer suits, and manufacturers still make them, there's nothing wrong with them. I have a multi-layer suit, but it's the current one I wear now was 8 years newer than my first suit. And my suit now even would be considered heavy when you get into the higher end suits that you utilize that lighter technology that almost you think of like sports fabric. It's moisture wicking. Oh, it's great. You're not going to wear it in a race car because it'll stick to you if it melts. But they have now fire resistant material that can provide some of those properties of the moisture wicking sports fabric to pull the heat away from your body inside. You can almost feel the airflow through it. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
What I remember from when you and I started, I got to buy I had a 2-layer suit that weighs probably 5 times what a multi-layer suit, a nicer suit weighs now. And it makes it, you're not as hot. As we all know, you drive a race car on a really hot day in, August at VIR, it's hot. You get out of the car, you're sweating, you're tired, your body is consuming, the fluids you put in it beforehand to keep you from overheating. And these, the new modern suits alleviate a lot of that.
Yeah. In the heavier suits
that we've all had to deal with.
The heavier suits, to me, they're a little fatiguing. I don't think they fit that well. And maybe that's just how I bought it. Instead of coming in to get fit, I was just buying online because it was on sale.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's one of the things, you're in a position, you live in the same state where we are. You're not terribly far away from us. So it'd be worth it, when you decide you want to upgrade that suit, come to our showroom, try suits on, spend an hour, spend 3. But we've got an extensive inventory of suits. So if you or any of your listeners ever want to come in, you're not going to come in. Oh, here I got 3 suits you can try on. No, I probably have 400 suits you can try on. Wow. Should you desire. You get into colors and different sizes, different colors, different manufacturers, different number of layers, different designs. We've got it's all there where you can put your hands on it. You can go in the changing room, put it on, walk around in it, sit down in one of the race seats in our showroom, see how it's going to feel, around your shoulders and around your torso area when you go to sit in driving position like you would in your race car. I tell everybody, when I talk to customers that just happen to call the sales line when I pick it up, how far are you? I live here. How far away are you? Oh, like 2 hours. You really should. You're buying your first helmet. You really should come down.
Oh, you need to be
our
fit
sales
for
staff.
that.
We're good
sure.
enough. Yeah. Well, I mean, we're all experienced enough. We all know what fits, and we know what fits on certain body types. We can get you close. Get it right most of the time. But when you're buying for the first time, it is worth it to try the things on. Try on the gloves. Try on the different shoes. Try on all the different manufacturer helmets. They're all cut. We all have, our bodies are all different.
Yeah.
We're not stamped like a car, that we're all the same. So it is worth it if you have an opportunity to try on, to sit in a seat before you buy it and put it in your car, to try that suit on before you buy it and put it in your car. It's worth it. Save you a lot of back and forth shipping. We'll do that. If you were to buy something online, we send it to you. This doesn't fit quite right. We'll get you squared away so you end up with the right stuff. If we got to ship you another suit, have that one come back, helmet, shoes, not a problem. Our feet are different, and the manufacturers can't make. There isn't some magic thing that will fit everybody. So it's definitely worth it to try this stuff on. When you're ready for a suit, come on out, spend the afternoon till you get the one that you're happy with 100%.
Well, I actually, you mentioned the moisture wicking stuff. That's near and dear to my heart because we do a lot of hiking. And so I would say 80% of my wardrobe is some moisture wicking something. Oh, and yeah. I totally wear it under my race suit. And I've been warned that it will just melt to me. And yes. I probably need to come in and at least see what you have for undergarment stuff,
Oh, we can get it. We can get it. Excuse my dog. Tucker. Tucker. Stop. Tucker. Come here, dude. Hey, come here.
The life of a dog owner.
Yeah.
Somebody came and knocked on the door, huh?
Not at the door. I think it's just he'll bark at my neighbors when they're bringing their dog out in their yard across the street, and I try to explain to him. Of course, he's a dog, that you can't bark at somebody that's in their own yard. They come in your yard, come up to your front door, and stick their head in the window. Then go ahead, please bark away.
Yeah, all he sees is motion.
Yeah, but back to the undergarments. Yeah, there have been advances in the undergarments. The Nomex underwear is now not as hot and bulky and heavy like a sweater, like it used to be. There are, all the manufacturers, whether it's OMP, we have another brand called Track Gear. Track Gear, that's one of the things they pride on, is their stuff being moisture wicking but fire resistant. Yeah, you don't want to wear the sports fabric. I got Under Armour t-shirts and the sports fabric undershirts and things. Yeah, you don't want to wear that in a car, and it will, be bad if, in the event if you did have a fire inside the race car. Yeah, because it will get hot. It's not a natural fiber. It will melt. But yeah. there are new in the advances in the fire resistant technologies. They have made them that aren't as heavy, aren't as bulky. They still protect you, and they do pull some of that moisture away from your body, because even on a cold day, we sweat when we're driving a race car.
Oh, absolutely. We sort of glossed over helmets a little bit. I think it's super important. I rode motorcycles basically my entire life. To have a proper fitting helmet. Now, it's a little different when you race cars than it is on the street with a motorcycle. And the helmets are different. So anybody who's an HPDE who's like, I'm wearing my motorcycle helmet, you
don't want to do that. I know it's allowed in the early stages.
I know it's allowed, but you really, you don't want to do it, like Mark said. But so I have a budget G-Force. My only complaint with it is its weight. Looking it up, it's actually not that heavy in comparison, but they're lighter options. It actually has good visibility. Yes. Now, I tried on, I don't know, 4 or 5 different budget helmets, and it happened to be, for my facial structure, the best visibility.
Yeah, it works for you, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's passed, the same SA, Snell certification that a more expensive helmet would. So it will do what it is supposed to do. And it's funny, when I talk with customers, they're like, "Oh, I need a carbon fiber helmet," because it's lighter. And then when you start looking at helmet weights, I've got a carbon Kevlar composite helmet, and I think it weighs 3.3 pounds, and the carbon version of it weighs 3.1 pounds. They obviously go up in size. I can't say all of a certain helmet in carbon or composite version weighs this much, because obviously bigger head, bigger size helmet, bigger shell, more material. So there is variance. You can't compare a small of one against an extra large and say, well, wait a minute, why is they should be the same? No, they're not. But helmet fit is very, very important. It's very common also for some customers who end up buying a helmet that's too big. The helmet needs to be snug. You don't want it to come off your head. But also all our heads are shaped a little different. We don't have there is no really one size fits all. Between the different brands, some will fit better on certain types of heads than others. That again is where it comes down to be, importance of if you are in an area where you can try different brands on. One brand, you may decide you're going to pick brand X. I want brand X because my buddy has it, or all my friends, all the guys on the internet, or all the guys in our group on Instagram say, buy this helmet, but that helmet may not fit you. So, be very, that's one thing we advise people on the phone. You're buying a helmet for the first time. We ask a lot of questions. We have you take a measurement of your head. How's your head shaped? Is it a more oval shaped, or is it more round? These are all very important factors and very important pieces of information to help you select a helmet that's going to fit properly, be comfortable, and not a distraction. If you get a helmet that doesn't fit right and you start getting a headache after you wear it for 20 minutes, that's not good. Because if you're out on the track and you start feeling it, then where's that little bit of focus in your brain going? Oh, man, I don't like my helmet. It's pushing my cheeks together too tight, or it's pushing on my forehead, or it's hurting the back of my head at the top. The helmet fit is very, very important. You got a G-Force, you said, but it fits. You just said it met my needs. I like the eye port. It fits the way it fits around your face. There's nothing wrong with it. Could there be something out there that may fit better? Sure. But it's not a guarantee. Oh, if I go out and buy $1,000 helmet, is it going to be better? Not necessarily.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm too hard on helmets to that's my drawback to getting a carbon one, because when we're doing jump drills and stuff in impound, I'm definitely banging my head on my way out, and I forget it. So I literally trailered it home where my helmet was in the passenger footwell of the race car from VIR all the way home for 4 hours. So it definitely tumbled
rolled
around a
the
little
whole
bit.
trip.
Yeah. So I don't feel I'm necessarily responsible enough for, that expenditure for a carbon fiber helmet. But if you talk to me on Sunday afternoon when I get out of the car from a 45-minute race, if I could take my 3.5 pound helmet and make it a 3-pound helmet, I'll probably spend the money.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I'm personally torn, because that half a pound for 45 minutes on all the turns, the G load you're putting through on your neck, you get tired.
It will add up. Yeah, it'll add up. For sure. But one thing you said, you have kids, right?
No, I have a race car.
Oh, you don't?
I need to write my race car off as a dependent. IRS, if you're listening, that dependent.
That's right.
It's a person, I swear.
Well, give it a name and get it a social security number.
Right. Born in 2007.
I was. Yeah. Well, what I was going to say was, take care of your gear like you take care of your kid or your dog. You wouldn't leave your dog riding in the back of the race car on the ride home from VIR. I always, me personally, I'm very funny. I'm very funny about my gear. I keep it. I had an opportunity one time to drive a friend's car, and I didn't bring my stuff. And he's like, "You can just wear my helmet." Yeah, his helmet would fit me, same size. But I was like, "Nah, I'm going to get in the race. I want my own helmet. I want my own gloves. I want my shoes. And when I get out, I make sure the Velcro strap on my shoes aren't just flapping around where they're going to snag on things. I loosen them up. I put the Velcro back where the straps, close them. Put my Hans goes in its sleeve before it goes into my gear bag where I keep my gloves and my shoes. My helmet, I'll let it air out, but I'll put it somewhere in the back of the car where it's not going to roll around. The tow vehicle, wherever you want to call it. I think you'll find too, if you do decide to splurge a little bit on a nicer, lighter helmet. Yeah, I don't think you'll leave it in the back of the car, even if you make a checklist.
Yeah.
I tell customers too, have a little checklist before you go to the track.
I have those
when you're packing your stuff up.
I have all of that. I actually did a glove upgrade because I checked it off that I brought my gloves. I have a big duffel bag, carries my suit. I have multiple balaclavas. I have multiple pairs of socks because I sweat. I have multiple things, right? And, but only one pair of gloves. Swore they were in there. Had to be in there. Everything else was in there. Gloves got to be in there.
Yeah.
We show up at VIR and I have no gloves. So I have to walk down.
Laying out all your gear, get ready to get dressed.
Yeah. No gloves. So I jump in the race car, I'm getting into my gear, right? We're going out for practice. It's a good thing I get ready early. I drive down to TMI and I hand them a thing and I said, I need gloves. And they were like, do you care what color? And I was like, I don't care. I'm about to go out to practice. Well, it turned out
what do you got?
They're like Pyrotex or whatever, but that style of glove I like better than the style I had before. So I now know that, they're not holding up that great, but another thing for the list, something to buy. But, I think that's my only gear upgrade. Oh yeah.
When you come see us, we got, we have, lots of gloves to try and try them on different size, reverse stitched versus traditional stitch, different kinds of material on the palms. You'll never know what you really like yourself until you try them all.
Yeah. I'm definitely a reverse stitch guy.
We have a steering wheel. Yeah. We have a steering wheel we can pull off the wall hanger and let you hold the steering wheel and see, I'm going to like this. Yeah, good gloves. Yeah, that's another important piece of the puzzle. If you got gloves that are slipping where you start gripping the wheel tighter, you're tightening muscles, you're expending energy that's taking away from your focus of what's going on in front of you and around you driving your race car.
Yeah,
it's
the
all these
actual
little
gloves
things
I
that
had
add up to helping reduce fatigue.
Yeah, fatigue, distraction, comfort. Overall comfort is really important in the car. I love my seat.
Yes,
but after not a year, we had 4 events in this seat in this car.
Mm-hmm.
It was in my other car, so I got a couple years in the seat. I love it, and I thought it was set right where it needs to be, but I need to adjust it. Right, I don't need a new seat.
Mm-hmm.
I need to just move it up just a little. Right.
Yeah.
How many seats do you guys keep on the floor normally?
On the floor?
Yeah, when you guys are
we probably
on the showroom floor.
We probably have, on our showroom floor, we probably have over a dozen out on the floor.
Yeah.
It's space constraints. We can't put them all out there, but we've got, a couple hundred of them in the back.
Yeah,
at least.
So when I went,
we try to have the different sizes out there where you can sit in them, but we can always pull one off the shelf, set it down on the carpet, stand behind it, and still let you sit in it.
Yeah, when I went, I don't think there were any halos on the floor, but there was.
That could have been. There was a little time where I think we were waiting on back orders on a few of the models of those.
I think you only had one left.
Sold the last floor model. We just had, there was a stretch with all the supply stuff that's happened, during and post COVID. Yeah, there was a time where we sold out of a couple models of seats before we got more. And then we had this break in time between when we got rid of the last one we had in the building till when the next truckload of them showed up.
But so
now our floor now is, I don't think we have any empty stands on the display stands where we mount the seat where you can sit down in it.
Well,
but we also can't put every model of every seat out just because space constraints. Because we still want to have other products out there too.
There's 2 different versions of my OMP HTER. There's the XL and the regular. Mm-hmm. I think and there's
the R400 version.
Right, correct. I think when I went, there was the skinny version of this seat out, and there was the XL version of the WRC.
Yes.
Which dimensionally is the same. It's basically an unhaloed HTE as far as measurements.
Yeah, they are within 0.5 millimeter, I think. Yeah, but
right.
the way the thigh bolsters are and everything, they're very similar. So you could feel how it's going to fit shoulders and down. It just didn't have the halo.
Yeah, so I fit really well in the WRC, but I knew I wanted a halo. Mm-hmm. I squeezed into the non-XL, HTER that was there. And I was like, well, my butt's all the way down and these aren't really in my way. So that's what I'm going to do. I needed the XL. So that's what I went with. But the other thing I think,
that's a good seat. I like the HTE.
I see it everywhere now, but the other thing I think people overlook is their belts. Now, spending all that time in the tech shed, I learned a lot about belts. I heard a lot of people complain about belts, and I was very specific 2 years ago now. No, last year I came up and ordered, and I'm a cam lock, pull up on the lap belts, pull down on the shoulder harness guy. And if they don't just make them that way forever, I'm going to have a problem because I don't understand how people adjust up on their shoulder belts and then down.
Yeah, well, the shoulders.
Belts.
Well, the shoulder belts all be, you reach and pull down on the ends on your shoulders. Yeah, the laps are where you get into pull up versus pull down. It depends on where the poles are when they're in the car. Yeah. There are belts out there now where they, when you buckle into the cam, the adjuster portion is in your lap. So you just pull out. And they consider those pull down. But if you have to reach around the sides of the seats, in some cars that doesn't work, like a Corvette with a really tall transmission tunnel, a Miata, you're not going to be able to reach between the seat, reach outside the seat on the tunnel side and try to tighten up your when you're on the driver's side, it'd be your right side lap belt. You're not going to be able to do that. And then, of course, it comes down to the materials. When you get into belts, like the nicer belts now, the material is softer. So it's all the adjusters, everything are, they're nice and aluminum and everything, they just adjust really easy. And that's one of when you get into the higher end belts, that's why it just, you pull on them and they move. And then, but when they're locked into place, they don't. But it's the ease of adjustment, especially doing a quick driver change. If you're doing endurance racing where you're sharing a car.
Yeah, I think
you have that 5-minute pit stop you do, like it with Chump or AER or WRL. You want to get the car fueled, get the driver change, and get them out. You got, you're watching the clock. You want to do it quickly.
Well, I was fortunate you guys had a set left because I gave I can't remember who I was working with at the time, but I gave them my requirements, and they were like, "We have one left," and I was like, "I want it. I want it right now. I don't care if it's pink. Like, I need that setup. You're not going to get me doing weird stuff with my belts. That's the belt setup I need."
Yeah.
Is there any other
general?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say in the general vein of what we've been talking about safety gear, and I know you and I were talking offline before. This is out there for the guys getting into the hobby. Look at your safety first before go fast parts. That would be one of my pieces of advice. If you get to the point you're soloing in HPDE, you're committed. So then it's time to think of safety, proper safety gear. I see a lot of guys, they come out, I just got my new Corvette and, I've done 2 track days. Now I want to go get a tune. Why?
Yeah.
And you're driving in 3-point seatbelts.
Yeah.
Wearing a heavy, cheap helmet, wearing your tennis shoes, no, I always understand you're going out for the first time. You want to see if you're going to like this madness that we've all gotten into and been sucked into and continue to do year after year. But when you get to the solo point, you're committed. All right. You're putting you put the time in to get here. Don't look at these things that make your driving experience better, rather than just throwing go fast parts on the car, buying sticky tires or thing. It's important.
Absolutely.
I always try to stress that. I stress that when I talk to people on the phone.
Yeah, I used to get to see them
on your safety. You only have one you. Yeah. You probably see some of them at tech.
Yeah, I used to see them in tech all the time.
20-year-old driving suit.
Yeah,
the 20-year-old driving suit. The glove, the shoe where the sole's starting to come apart. No.
I'm so against. So here's my soapbox from the tech shed. When you do safety equipment, you do it all at one time. You do not want a fixed back seat without rollover protection. You do not want harnesses in a regular seat. A harness bar is not rollover protection. That is the worst gimmick I've ever seen in the entire world, because other than a very standard frontal collision, it's probably not going to do you a lot of good. I think they should be banned, but that's probably for a different podcast when I rant at nationals. You want to do it all at once. If you're going to do a seat, you need to commit to rollover protection in a roll bar or a full cage, and you want to commit to the seat and the harness all together. And at that point, you need to start.
Safety is the system.
Yeah, it is a system. It's not one piece at a time. So I firmly believe that.
Yep, I've had that conversation over the years hundreds of times. Well, I'm thinking about getting a seat. Okay. You're going to get a seat. You're going to want harnesses. You're going to use a seat and harnesses. You need a roll bar. You need rollover protection. And then, of course, then you're at that crossroads again. Do I want to try to make this car into a race car? Oh, wait, but I drive it to work every day. Okay. Well, obviously a full cage is out. But if it's going to be a dedicated track car, I tell guys to just skip the roll bar, just go to a cage. Put a cage in the car. Proper seat, head and neck restraint, and if you're at that level where you're committed to this hobby.
Yeah, the other thing with
that would be another podcast. What do I do when I get to the gray zone? There's a subject for one we could do.
You brought up the head and neck restraint, and I wanted to touch on this. Actually, it's sort of in my notes, sort of not in my notes, but okay. You guys carry Hans and the other version. So the instructors out there, I can't remember what it's called. Yes. Everything's made by Simpson now.
It's called the Simpson Hybrid S.
Yes,
Simpson makes two hybrids, and as a tech person, they make the Hybrid S. The Hybrid S is the expensive one. Everyone's, they get sticker shock when they see the cost. It's a little over $1,000 now, but that's the only device that was tested by SFI and the FIA for use with a 3-point seatbelt. So for the instructors who are jumping in, you get your HPD1 student that pulls up in a brand new C8 Corvette. He's never been on the track in his life. And you can wear that device in his passenger seat with a 3-point seatbelt. Their sport version has not been tested, but it's funny. I've seen people wearing them. Now, will it work? I don't know. They didn't test it. I haven't tested it. I haven't been in an impact with the thing on in a 3-point belt. And we also sell the Hans device, that is made to be used with a harness. There is no way around it. Both of the Simpson hybrid models, the S or the Sport, can also be used with 5-point belts.
Yeah,
or 6-point.
I implore any instructor listening, you need to invest in that, because you're going to get into somebody's car, and you need that protection.
Yeah, and we are carrying a device made by Stand 21 that it looks like a Hans device.
Okay,
where it's it works the same way. It's got the yoke, it sits over your shoulders, you pull your harnesses down over it.
Is it also certified?
Yes.
Okay.
They fit a little differently. That's another one. We have customers come in. I'm getting a Hans. Try the Hans on. We'll throw this one on there too. Because I have had people buy them based on the shape of their collarbone, how their body's put together. They found one to be more comfortable than the other.
I have an 18 and a half inch neck. Nothing's comfortable.
And so, the same. Yeah, when you get to harnesses, and I think most of the clubs now, if you're using harnesses and the car's got a roll bar or cage in it, they want you wearing some form of a head and neck restraint.
Yeah, I think that's smart.
Yeah, it is. They work. And when I've had to get in a car with 3-point belts without mine, I feel like I'm not wearing pants. It's not comfortable. I don't like it not being there.
Yeah, I made 2 drastic purchases after being at a track where incidents occurred. One was my Hans. Mm-hmm. A friend of mine, his brother rolled at Summit Point. And then the other one, we had a catastrophic fire. And in my race car, all I had was the handheld, and I was like, we got home and I made a call. That's why I actually have to come visit you anyway. System. Yeah, my fire system was certed in July, so it was probably the July event where it occurred, and I went and bought right away, and so it expired. It needs to be recerted from July 2022, so I need to bring that by for next year for that great rule.
And also for your listeners, too. We sell the SPA and the Lifeline systems, and we service the both in-house.
Yeah.
So when they get to their service date, you can send it to us, bring it by, and we can service it and ship it back to you. And when we sell them, we fill them and pressurize them the day they ship out.
Okay. Yeah.
So fresh.
I mean, this will obviously is already been, we're recorded, but I already gave away the Lifeline Zero 2020. I'm kind of kicking myself. I didn't buy that for my own car because it was lighter than the Spa that I got. But anyway, do you have any parting shots for listeners on safety equipment or anything like that?
Nothing more than what we covered, other than I can reiterate. If when you're selecting these items, if you have the opportunity, if you're nearby, whether it's us or another company in this business where you can try things on, it's worth the trip. Do it, and take your time. And what works for one of your friends in your group chat may not be the right item for you. Take that into consideration.
Yeah. And
we're here. We have showroom hours Monday through Friday from 10 to 5. You can come in. We can get you outfitted. From head to toe if you need it, or if you're just picking up a pair of shoes. Or I was even racer's tape. Got that too.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. Do you have winter weekend hours by chance?
Not yet. We usually will start those up in January, especially in preseason. With guys getting ready for the season, guys getting ready for comp school. We'll do, but just it's staffing. It's just we're like you guys. We need to eat and sleep too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're recording in December, but
we'll bring them back. I think after the first of the year.
All right.
Well, we did last year. I think we were open all through the month of February. You don't need an appointment like we did when we had, during COVID, where we were limiting the number of people in the showroom.
Right.
But we've got staff there to assist you, get you outfitted, take your time trying things on and things.
Awesome. Well, Mark, I think that wraps it up. Racers, you got a decision to make whether you're going to buy a really expensive, super long lasting seat. Actually, it's not really that expensive in the grand scheme of things. It'll probably be the last seat you buy for that car, unless you plan on racing for 30 years. Then you only have to buy 3 seats. But and for all the HPDE guys, all the racers that are new, everybody, it really does pay to get fitted. Fit your helmet, get your shoes, your suit. Everything's going to work a little bit better, I believe. I made the mistake. I'm still wearing the stuff I made mistakes in. But I think comfort, minimizing fatigue, all that stuff will help you get just that little bit faster while you're out there. So there's less of a distraction and you can be more confident, So, Mark, I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about OG Racing. As I said before, we're racers like you guys, or HPDE guys like you guys. We're using the stuff. We're not just reading a script and telling you to buy, XYZ just because we have it. We full service showroom, fully stocked warehouse, and happy to help anybody, answer any questions. Con, you always see me in the paddock. Just look for the guy in the West Virginia University baseball hat and the chucks.
Yep.
That's probably me.
Yep. And you guys are at OG Racing on Instagram, and you also have a Facebook page, I believe. Yeah, I usually stalk OG Instagram.
On our Facebook page.
Yeah. All right.
Yep, that's us.
Well, I'll see you next year in the paddock at some point. Probably March.
Yeah, let me know when you want to come in. If you want to come in and look at suits or something, let me know.
All right, will do. Appreciate it, sir. Thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you, Con.
Mm-hmm. Bye.
I enjoyed it. Thank you very much for having me.
Until next time, keep working on yourself, keep working on the car, and let's get faster.